Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, last Monday morning, early in the morning when I was making the most recent video, I was talking about the thunderstorms that were coming out of Florida that we were going to watch develop into a weak low that was going to go up here toward the North and South Carolina coast. And at that time, I said, let's just watch it. It's going to really add quite a bit of rainfall, and we were concerned about our flooding problems. Well, that system intensified throughout the day on Monday and then into Tuesday, kind of a bit to our surprise, and became Tropical Storm Bertha, the second named tropical system of the year. And like we said, it really added to our flooding problems here across North and South Carolina. To take a look here at the end of May, calculated soil moisture anomaly maps. Now these maps are made in millimeters, so just remember that 100 millimeters is 4 inches. We can see that there are parts of the Carolinas here that are sitting anywhere between 4 and 6 inches of surplus moisture in the soil. And a lot of that came on as of late. This is the change over the month of May in soil moisture anomalies, and we can see a massive increase here, primarily due to a cutoff low and then Tropical Storm Bertha that moved over the area. So I wanted to make a map to kind of put this in perspective, because so many people across the United States are talking about the differences between 2020 and 2019. So this is what this map shows. Over the time period of March 1st to May 30th, anything that is showing up in blue is showing you where 2019 was wetter over that time period. Anything that is in red shows you where 2020 has been wetter. And then you can look at the numbers over there on the right to see by how much. Clearly, in parts of the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, and that of course includes the Carolinas, things have been extremely wet this year. Now, over the weekend, all the storms were way outside of the Carolinas for the most part. Yeah, we got some rain that came through and some thunderstorms, but the severe stuff was on the other side of the country. In fact, let me just show you what some of these storms look like coming through Washington. This is by Spokane, and here was some of the damage to some trees up in Montana. Now, you're probably saying, well, why are you showing me this? This is on the other side of the country. It is several thousand miles away. I'm showing it to you because of this. When we saw those storms that did come through here over the weekend, earlier in the weekend, and we think about what type of thunderstorm we typically see this time of year, usually the types of storms I just showed you from this area are what's sweeping through the Carolinas this time of year, big long squall lines. Well, as you look at this map, which shows weekend precipitation, yeah, we had some heavy rains still in parts of the Carolinas, while the midsection of the country got a big chance to dry out. Very warm, dry days there. But why I'm bringing this up is because normally when we think about what part of the country has the most frequent severe wind damage from thunderstorms, it is the Carolinas. That is the epicenter for this. So this pattern that we're in is one we got to discuss to see where it's going and if it's going to increase that severe thunderstorm threat, and what it means in terms of precipitation for not only this week, but next week as well. So let's understand that pattern. So I'm taking you here to the upper levels of the atmosphere, troughs and ridges. Troughs are in the cool colors, ridges are in the warmer colors. Now what I want you to see is how things are blocked up in the Atlantic. There's a trough here, a large ridge going up toward Greenland, another trough sitting right there, okay? Now, that particular pattern is called an omega block. And whenever we have an omega block, what it does is it sends the jet stream more on a north-south trajectory rather than a west to east. And what that's going to do is that sometimes allows the pattern to retrograde. It gets stuck and even sometimes moves backwards, which means to the west. You're going to see this trough do that. Now that's a critical piece to our upcoming forecast. Let me get those drawings off there and show what I mean. Because with the ridge behind it, temperatures are going to be warming up. But with that trough retrograding, what this does is this keeps us, for the most part, dry throughout this week. What we're going to watch instead is this. There's a feature. I've now taken you back to the weekend here. This is the upcoming weekend, June 7th, 6th and 7th. And what we see is this feature here, sneaking under a broader ridge that's in place right in the midsection of the country. Now that ridge has us on the wrong side of this trough to be wet through the end of this week. In fact, there's only thunderstorm chances toward the end of this week. Other than that, it's going to be relatively dry. But the big question remains is, where is this feature, which is a tropical feature, going to be going? Because what the current European ensemble suggests is that while the heat returns later this week under this ridge, the tropical system cuts into Texas and they get swept up in this trough right in through here. Now that trough is going to be critical by the time we get out to about June 10th to just blasting out the blocked up pattern here in the North Atlantic, which is good. We don't want to see blocking set up. and that sweeps through and increases our precipitation chances, like I said, toward the end of the week. But does it truly bring in a wetter pattern? And that's what we want to be talking about, given how much flooding we've been having as of late. So here you go. This is your week 1 across the whole of the United States total precipitation. And you can clearly see this section right here that shows up on the drier side of things. In fact, across the state of North Carolina, we are generally measuring precipitation amounts here anywhere between 1/10 to up to 3/10 of an inch of rain throughout much of this week. Now, at the end of the week, with some thunderstorm activity coming in, we could have some locally heavier amounts. But overall, that's a drier picture being painted in the week 1 precipitation outlook on the whole. What does this mean? No big low pressure systems sweeping through, which is what I just showed you with those upper level winds. But as you can see, there is a tropical system to be contending with, and we better talk about it because the National Hurricane Center has given this a 70% chance of developing into our 3rd named tropical system of the year. So where's it currently projected to go? Well, the European model tends to do the best on these systems. So let's take a look at its cyclone tracks here. 2 maps showing the same thing, just different ways of looking at it. What we do notice is coming out of the Bay of Campeche up into the Gulf, it does appear that it's going to be coming here towards Texas, and then getting into the parts of the Mid-South and getting up into maybe even the Corn Belt. So what's good about this is that right now we do not see the track of this heading toward the Carolinas, unlike what Bertha did. So if we just look at the next 10 days in terms of precipitation anomalies, both the GFS and the European do have us on a drier overall track here. But we have to watch things carefully. Now, if I were in the Carolinas right now forecasting, I knew how much rain we had, I would not want the GFS to verify. It's a more progressive flow pattern. It brings the the tropical system farther to the east. And my concern is that as the deeper trough that comes out of the northwest sweeps in, could this all get wrapped up and pulled quicker to the east and increase the rainfall chances for the Carolinas? With the European model being slower, bringing the system again like this, that's our best chance at staying on the drier side of things, which we do need to be on to dry out here after the incredibly heavy rainfall we've had as of late. In the near term, look at this. Today's severe weather outlook, not in the Carolinas. Not there tomorrow either. In fact, we're worried about hitting parts of the Corn Belt here with some strong straight line winds, not only on Tuesday, but again on Wednesday. It will not be until the end of the week that our chances of storms kind of start to rebound. So this is a thunderstorm index that we create at Nutrien, showing you on Thursday evening and on Friday evening. That's when we start to see the environment getting a little bit better for thunderstorm activity toward the end of the week. But I still think it's going to be the midsection of the country that gets lit up with severe weather throughout this week, all the way through Friday. So let's kind of see how this all plays out. High pressure in control today. As we work our way forward, we still see that to be the case. What I will be watching is throughout the day on on Tuesday, some stronger winds to move across, across the state. But in general, these winds are going to be coming around this high and going offshore, so they're coming out in this direction. So this is in the evening on Tuesday. Let's now work our way through Wednesday morning, afternoon, and evening. We just again see some stronger winds at times, but we're watching the tropical system here. The severe weather's to our north, and we may not see, this is now getting into Thursday morning, afternoon, and evening. It might be until Thursday evening that our chances for storms really kind of come back into the forecast. So some possibly locally heavier amounts, but most folks are going to get missed by these storms. We then get into the day on Friday, and once again, Friday afternoon and evening, under the heat that's coming later on this week, some pop-up storms are certainly possible at this point. So as we work our way into the weekend, though, overall, with the heat that's coming, we got some chances for storms on Saturday night, and then getting into Sunday, they kind of seem to move out. But at that point, all of our attention is going to be going south here to see if this system does follow the European's current trajectory, which is to pull it in through here, or does it actually push more of its moisture over toward the southeast? We need to just watch this week to see how that all evolves. Good news is I'll have another update out to you before we really know where this is going to go early next week. So looking at that exclusively from the GFS versus the European, I told you don't want the GFS to come into fruition here because as we notice, first of all, The first system brings its moisture here, and then the GFS is trying to develop a second tropical system that goes toward Florida and potentially brings its moisture up the coast as well. So I think we would prefer, given how much rainfall we've seen as of late, the European model, which doesn't have the second tropical system and tries to keep the main corridor from what could be Cristobal here back in Texas. So that would be keeping us over into week 2 a little bit drier as well. Now let's talk temperatures. From April 1st through May 30th, we know that because of the cool weather that we saw at times in April, but then really in May, we are still behind in our accumulation of growing degree day units. So we're off by anywhere between about 30 and up to 90 GDUs at this point. So that's putting us pretty far behind. Well, today is still another cool day, but you can see the heat building in the plains. So we see across the state a lot of 70s here for high temperatures today. As we play this forward, the rebound begins on Tuesday. Look, we're getting back up into the low 80s. And then by the time you look at this Wednesday, now we're talking 90-degree temperatures, hangs on for Thursday and into Friday. That's again Thursday, Friday, with the heat coming back and the moisture return, chances for storms. But we start off the week cool and finish it on a warmer note. And that continues into the weekend with a lot of mid to upper 80s on Saturday. And then possibly on Sunday with a weak frontal passage coming through, we could drop back off to the lower 80s. But still a lot different than what we're going to be seeing at the beginning of this week. Now going beyond that time period out to the 6 to 10 day forecast, remember our jet stream was doing something a bit like this. So it's cool west, heat in the center, and that trough hanging off over here is going to keep us much closer to average in the Carolinas. And as we look out deep into the middle of June, the GFS really wants to drop a deeper trough here than the European is advertising. And all that really means is for us, we're going to be seeing near average temperatures across the state of North Carolina, but it's this cool coming through the Corn Belt I want you to keep an eye on. Because in this area, we need to be on the lookout for any stresses. Now, when we think about the overall picture, some of the stuff I'm going to be watching very carefully are changes in the tropics specifically. But one of the things I'll be researching, reporting to you a lot over the coming weeks is going to be blocking in the North Pacific and North Atlantic, some new work I'm doing. But let's take a look at what these other factors are right now. So going straight to our global ocean temperature anomaly map, we've recently seen the global trade winds, especially those across the Pacific, back off a bit. In other words, these aren't quite as strong as they were. We even had a little westerly wind burst here. Yet we still have cool water that is in this area. We've seen a cooling trend here, a cooling trend in the North Atlantic, but still the main development region for hurricanes in through here is still quite warm. The key is going to be what happens here in the North Pacific with that warm spot. Now, thinking about this map of ocean temperature anomalies and thinking about where it's supposed to get by the time we get into July, we see warmth here, cool tongue there with La Nina, and then warm over here and warm there as well. Thinking about that, I went back and recreated here an animation that goes from 1985 to 2019 and looks at each July's ocean temperature anomalies. And you can see your big El Nino years, your big La Nina years. But what I wanted to do is look for a good analog. So last week when I was searching for this, the analog year that I found that matched the best seemed to be 2016. Notice the cool water here in 2016 as forecast for 2020. The warmth in the North Pacific. Look, even the cool tongue that sits here with the warmth to the south of it, that is in the forecast right now. And certainly with the behavior over in the Indian Ocean, look at the similarities. Now, using just one analog year is not the wisest thing to do when looking longer range, but we're going to use this as an example here. Because what we got in summer of 16 was quite a bit of above average temperatures here. And that included some very warm days and some almost record-setting warm overnight low temperatures, okay? What happened in terms of precipitation? It was extremely wet in through here, but as we got over to the coast, we tended to see higher atmospheric pressure feeding that moisture in. So the Bermuda high shifted over in this direction, which is something I'm always concerned about every summer for the Southeast and the Carolinas. So we need to watch that very, very carefully. Just want to remind you, though, right now, this is what the forecast for June, July, August looks like in terms of precipitation. This year, possibly some homebrew terms of tropical systems wet into this area. That's what the European, the NMME, and the CPC are all calling for. Now, I've shown you this the last few videos, and I've also showed you this. Interestingly enough, the CPC's temperature outlook looks almost identical to 2016. Now, why I'm showing it to you now is because the next time we talk, I'm going to have brand new updates from the European and from the CPC. We'll have to wait one more video for new stuff from the NMB, but I wanted to bring this back up to you and discuss it with you. If there's one piece to this puzzle that I think is going to be critical, it's going to be watching this figure. It's looking at global atmospheric angular momentum. And while the momentum is high, like it has been as of late, weather systems tend to be quite regular. Remember, a year ago when it plummeted in July and again in September, we sent parts of the central and eastern U.S. into drought. It's currently sitting here, and it's been oscillating with great regularity since January. We all want to watch to see if this, in summer, hits zero and keeps coming down. And if that does so, that would signal a huge pattern change in the North Pacific, and that's why I'm researching blocking patterns this week, and I'm going to report that to you in the next few videos. But to finish this up, I want to just give you a quick update on some international things. We have some more videos surfacing over the weekend about the desert locusts. And I want you to do this if you got a chance. Just go and Google FAO and the word locust, or you can just copy this link in here if you want to, and you can get their latest global forecast for May through July. But holy smokes, look at the video over there on the left. Again, just, I mean, a tremendous swarm of locusts. Finally, I want to show you what's going on in Europe. Week number 1 here, so the next 7 days is going to be cool in the Black Sea area. But if you get over here into week 2, we're going to be seeing quite a sizable warm up as the North Atlantic jet stream shifts as that omega block moves out. Still, wetter than average conditions. We're not really seeing any reason for that to dry out as we go out through the next 15 days or so. So overall, we would consider this a favorable weather pattern for the Black Sea area. And my last thing I want to show you today, finally here, is South America. Very wet conditions down in Rio Grande do Sul and Paraná. Dry where we grow a lot of the safrinha crop here. Dry where they want to be doing some harvesting in Argentina. But look at this. Early this morning, we'll have to see if this verifies. In Argentina's far southern growing areas, they're anticipating some patchy frost in that area, which could be impactful. So just want to give you that international flavor as we wrap this one up. A lot of content today, I know, but wanted to give you that perspective as we begin a new month, all right? Have a great week, and I look forward to giving you another update next Monday. Thank you.